What's up, everybody? Bunny Operator here. My real name's Jesse. As I mentioned in my video series, highlighting people from the firearms industry, lesser known folks who are just regular people, but they've made big accomplishments through the firearms world. And I think it's a great opportunity to highlight some of these folks, lesser known folks. And as I mentioned in my trailer, because I'm an American that just happens to be Asian, I thought it would be a good idea to highlight other Asians in the firearms industry because we're not represented in the mainstream media as much. So we'll go ahead and use social media to do that. Now, joining us today is Jeff Quan. He's the owner of LAS Concealment. He's a good friend of mine, and I figured he'd be the best person to start this off. So without further ado, Jeff Quan, go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for the opportunity and really just thinking of me. Hopefully we can impress some people, but really my name's Jeff. I'm the owner of LAS Concealment. We've been operating for about 6 years. LAS stands for Loaded and Safe. And really what we concentrate on is high quality, forward thinking concealment options that really are solving problems rather than creating problems. And that's really our focus is, again, solving problems, and we spend more money on product development than marketing. So it's a good chance you probably haven't heard of us, but there is maybe a friend or two that have heard of us. With that, we don't really see ourselves as anyone special. We just do us, and hopefully, people gravitate towards us, and really model of it is really hopefully if you build it, they will come. So with that kind of principle, we do spend a lot more money in product development and testing rather than marketing. So again, we're probably not that big, and a lot of people probably don't know us.
Yeah, it's all good. All good. I mean, what's your company size right now? I mean, since from when the company started, I would say.
I believe in a lot of major manufacturing principles and have shrunk that down to a smaller scale. So even though we're a very small company, we do a high volume. We're averaging right now about 1,100 holsters a month.
Wow.
We have a lot of big people. It's just something that we don't really express and talk about because I don't really feel the need to talk about numbers and money and that type of stuff. Really, it's just product driven. We want to solve problems. That's our main concern. That's what we want to do. So that's our focus. We're actually only 4-man deep. We're not that big. We have a lot of CNCs that help us. I'm very forward thinking. I come from a tech background, specifically like a Fortune 100 background. So I was exposed to a lot of big concepts. And I shrunk those concepts to a smaller scale just so our processes and efficiency is just really there, and allows us to really concentrate on consistent quality rather than doing this one-off stuff. We really have a specific product line, and we specialize in monolithic tooling. So everything we do starts in 3D CAD. We CNC machine all of our own proprietary molds. So we're not using anything that anyone else in the entire world is doing. Everything that we use is truly unique, one-off to us. Really, we found a formula that we like and works, and we stick by that. And not everyone in this industry, I would say about maybe 2% of people in this industry or companies in this industry, really focus on that aspect of building holsters. Everyone, the 98% rest of the industry, they all use the same molds from the same 3 companies, and really their holsters don't have a unique feel or any of that. So that's what we concentrate on. 3D CAD really gives us such a bigger spectrum of what we can do and abilities of changing things and really forward thinking things. And that's what we like to concentrate on is, how can we solve problems? How can we fix things that annoy us? And can we drive that to the consumer, or at least consumers that already know and experience the same problems, they gravitate towards our products. So really, I think a lot of the people that we work with is, in the training community, we're not mainstream, but we're very thankful for all the people that really work with us and support us. It's amazing, man. It's really a good thing we have going here.
Yeah, right on, man. I mean, let your products show themselves. Let them speak for themselves. And in my my holster video series itself, when I was going over your products, I mentioned to you before that before I even knew who you were, I bought your holsters themselves to test for myself, and I carry AIWB or appendix also. And I told you that I came to that conclusion, like this is probably the best holster I've ever tried. And ever since then, I've been pushing to others, like, yeah, try this holster out, give it a go, and then go from there. Like, even from talking with you before, when we discussed that the discount code that I give to my folks, or at least to our patrons that come into my shop, and we don't have the exact model, and the discount code that I give to them for LAS, we get nothing out of that because I actually believe in your product. I just say, sorry guys, we don't have the holster exact configuration you want, but here's a discount code, go to LAS and order from there. I get nothing out of it, but it helps you, it helps Jeff, and because I actually believe in the product, you know what I mean? So, but I do want to,
and that's,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, all good, man. So, I mean, I want to point out to the folks that are watching the video, to the folks watching the video right now, that as of this time, because of restrictions, we have this whole pandemic thing going on, that travel restrictions are there. So Jeff and I couldn't do this in person and do like studio quality. So deal with the low tech stuff. It's all good. It's the content that matters, not necessarily the production quality, right? Because that's what really matters, what's inside. So segueing on from introduction from the company, like you and I discussed about this, about us growing up itself and getting to the firearms world independently in our own paths, and then how we as Asians growing up in America, being first, second generation, we didn't really have guides to lead us through the paths of how to be American, really, right? So it was through our own independent firearms worlds or firearms experiences that kind of segued us to where we were, and especially you turning yourself into this like pretty awesome guy, right? I mean, just from your background, from what you told me, a pretty awesome guy, fantastic company, like excellent products, and really forward thinking. So with that, your Asian American experience, like your history, how did you get to where you were, like in the firearms world? Why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Actually, I was thinking about it when we were going over everything, and
yeah.
And really, I grew up in Oakland, California, in the Fruitvale district, specifically in an area they call the Murder Dubs. And that's my background. That's what I was used to. That's what I grew up in. Growing up in that type of environment, you are kind of have a different mindset of, hey, this is who I am. This is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And at that time, I didn't really know about race. I wasn't treated differently or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I was able to move us out of Oakland, and we went to a suburb. And then that's when I really started noticing race a lot more. There was a lot of, at the high school that I went to, it was segmented. There was these blue lockers that all the Asian people hung out, and I was playing sports, so I got to hang out with other races. And it was kind of an eye-opener for me, because it was kind of like one of those things. Previously, I never knew about race. We were just all regular people. But when I moved to the suburbs, I really felt different. I felt like I looked different. But at the end of the day, I didn't really feel like I was being treated differently. But there wasn't a strong sense of being Asian at that time. It was just me being American and really just trying to fit in as best as I can. I knew I was different. In my group of friends, there was another Filipino, and it was just me. Everyone else was Caucasian. So we did feel that there was always some kind of bond there between me and him. And really every other Asian person I've met, there wasn't a lot of Asian people in the suburb that I grew up in. So we were very limited. It wasn't until I started becoming an adult and working in the corporate world that I really started feeling a sense of pride of being Asian.
Sure.
And started feeling oppression and all these things that other Asian people had experienced that I had never been experienced or exposed to. I'm pretty fortunate in that I don't face a lot of racism or any of that. And I think it really comes down to the generations before us have set the way, set a tone in a good way and a bad way. All
Right.
right. In a good way, I'm half Chinese. My grandparents and their families, and something is that where I currently live now in Arizona, I'm 20 minutes away from the internment camp that my grandma was in. And it's a eye opener that I can actually go and visit the internment camp site that my grandma was put in, and my grandfather comes and tells me stories. So that's when I started really learning and diving into more of the Asian culture and really understanding, the good thing is that my family was able to rise above it. I think our generations before us were able to rise above it and keep their heads down, keep their mouths kind of closed, and just better themselves. In today's world, what's going on, that type of mentality of being quiet and keeping your head down and just working forward, I feel that today, right now, it does hurt us in a little bit. We've talked about statistics and things of that nature of, what's currently going on in 2020 and 2021 and how these things are being underreported. And if they're not being reported, we can't look and find for resolutions to help other people of Asian descent. And so it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think really now, since we're third generations and fourth generations and people of that nature, we've really stepped away from the very cliche, very tight heritage that our parents enforce on us and have embraced a lot of the American ways. I think it's good for us to really start speaking on behalf of older generations and encouraging them to really report crimes or do those type of things. It's just kind of a blessing and a curse. I am completely thankful that in today's world, I face more reverse racism than I do negative racism. What I mean by positive racism, a lot of people think I'm smarter than what I really am, and that doesn't offend me. I like it, and people are trying to engage and connect with me on that sense. And people looking at you smarter than what you may be or what you think of yourself, it's pretty, it's a good thing. It's a good feeling. But I hate to disappoint them and tell them I'm not that smart. I'm not that math Asian. I'm not a doctor. I'm the opposite of every stereotype when it comes to Asians, and I'm okay with that. It's a weird feeling to go back and forth and have that reverse racism. I'm pretty fortunate, again, like I said, I didn't really face a lot of racism growing up. I felt the racism I did face was just to attack me personally. It wasn't anything as much of one of those things like, oh, this is a KKK member and he's totally a racist person. It was just something they had said to personally attack me. But that's my opinion on things and my opinion towards those situations I had faced.
Yeah, and real quick to clarify, you got cut off a little bit earlier there too. So your ethnic background is what?
I'm half Chinese and half Japanese.
Okay,
so we have. Yeah.
So you mentioned your grandma being the internment camp you're talking about, or the Japanese side then?
Yeah, so the internment camps is kind of one of those hidden things that a lot of people don't know about. And upon moving to Arizona, I actually found out that I'm 20 minutes away from my internment camp, my grandma's internment camp. And the crazy funny fact, actually, it's one of those places that I go to when I'm stressed. I like to go there to visit, to calm down. It puts it in perspective. Whatever I'm facing currently, it's not as bad as what everyone in this place, everyone at this camp faced. So it helps me put things in perspective and calm down. The whole entire story of Japanese internment camps and all that and how they came to be really set the tone for me to understand how important the Second Amendment is and due process. Without those two things, I'm a firm believer that Japanese internment camps wouldn't have happened. So today, in today's world, I am a big advocate for the Second Amendment and due process based on my family's experiences and how I personally believe those experiences would have changed if we had those two things.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's I totally understand that. Totally understand that. Like my family, we came over from due to the Vietnam War. They came in as refugees. Granted they were in Laos, so a lot of people don't realize, but Laos and Cambodia were involved in the Cold War too. But most folks, they talk about Vietnam because that's all they know. But the commies were everywhere, and granted, if it wasn't for the war, then I wouldn't be here. My parents didn't come here, but it gave us the opportunity to understand what America is about, what actual freedom is. So, all these folks out there are screaming about communism and how oppression is in America. They have no idea what oppression is, right? And I think that for first, second, third generation Americans who of Asian descent, I think we really understand what that is just based on the stories from our parents, So like your grandmother's case and my parents' case, like the horror stories that they told us of trying to cross and all that fun stuff. That's actual oppression, But yeah, you mentioned that you're being a proponent for 2A, and I am too, obviously, based on my channel. But the path that you into your firearms experience, like how did that come about? The 2A movement for you?
Yeah, so actually what had happened was, so I'm not educated. I actually dropped out of college. And at that time I dropped out of college, the recession started popping off and I moved back to Oakland and I moved back to the Murder Dubs. I moved back to the Fruitvale district. It wasn't the best move, but at the time that's what I could afford. I was just starting my career, just starting that. So I was just building my money up, I guess you can say. And what I noticed, understanding how dangerous that area is, my girlfriend at the time, I got into firearms to help protect her coming home. And luckily I have an uncle who was a manager at a manager range master or whatever the correct term is, at Metro in San Jose. And as soon as I bought the gun, I had asked him, hey, I want to start training. And I remember him telling me, he's like, you can teach yourself. And I said, yeah, but I would rather learn from a professional so that I don't create training scars. I don't want to have to retrain myself to do something correctly. I'd rather just start on the right foot. And he actually linked me up with a couple ones. And then I really gravitated to a guy named Todd Nielsen. And Todd Nielsen really helped me with my holster business in the sense that I think he saw something in me before I saw it myself. And he was really the big motivation in helping me actually launch the company and really start getting my foot wet in the industry. I never had any background in the industry. I didn't have contacts. I come from a corporate background. So, I wasn't raised around guns. I just fell into guns to help keep me and my girlfriend at the time safe and my neighbors. That was my pure intention on buying my first firearm. And it's really snowballed into something much larger now. And I think really talking with Todd sometimes, I don't even think he thought we were going to, do this. So it's a good thing. I've had a lot of great influences and I've been really lucky to really connect with great people. And that's really been my motivation, is just to keep doing what we're doing, connect with great people and share our experiences in the sense that, hey, you know what, there's a lot of people out there that want to protect each other. And those are the type of people I want to surround myself around.
No, absolutely. You and I talked about this too. And that was the purpose of my video series. And the purpose of these interviews was to inspire the folks out there, just because like us, we weren't raised around firearms, or at least the American principle of 2A. We had to learn that for ourselves. And from our discussions, like we both agree that segued to us educating ourselves on firearms laws and eventually the Constitution, Bill of Rights. So we understood what was bestowed upon us just by being Americans, right? And that's sort of segued into our own, you and I's, our own independent paths towards firearms ownership, firearms enthusiasm and giving back to others, right? Because my channel is mostly educational content, less production quality, but it's like value. That's what matters. And then same thing with your holsters, very forward driven. Like the little nuances with your holsters. When I first experienced them, I was like, huh, I never thought about that. But you know, it was by far probably the most comfortable. And I'm not alone in this. Like my peers or my younger firearms folks that are just now getting to it, the next generation, if you will, they've tested their own holsters, and when they tried LASs, you know, their comments to me are usually by far the most comfortable holsters they've ever carried for AIWB, anyways, right? You know, and that's legit. I think that's great. So, as far as like from your 2A experience and growing up, like how did you come to the idea of creating holsters for yourself and starting your business? Where did you start your business, and then where it is now?
One of the biggest questions I get is that when I started first firearm training, you know, you get that typical, like, I'm just going to buy whatever holster is cheapest. And from there, you know, snowballs, right? I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with those Black Hawk Serpa holsters or the Uncle Mike brand. You know, like, what's that other brand? There's so many brands out there that it's your entry level holster, right? And I was that guy. I didn't know. The first training class I showed up to was a guy who no longer does it, but you know, I showed up in my Oakland A's, New Era flat bill hat. I had a t-shirt, jeans, and I was wearing Jordans, you know, and I had an appendix carry holster that I had bought from another manufacturer. And as I progressed into training, I started learning things that I did and didn't like. And the company at that time that I was buying Kydex from, I learned a lot in the sense that there was no quality control. That all the holsters that I bought from him, they were inconsistent, and the feels and everything. I remember, you know, trying to draw my holster so much that I literally gave myself a wedgie from that holster because it was so tight. I thought to myself, you know what, I could do better. Why don't I just make myself gear and let's start that path? And I was seeing pitch in a training group, hey, you know, I created this gear for myself. Like, what am I missing? So I started posting in a training group and started asking people really about, like, you know, what can I do to make this better? What am I not thinking of? And some pretty predominant people were in that training group who actually are Asian American and own a very big company. He gave me encouragement, and he was like, dude, that's better than the stuff I buy. You should start selling it. And it opened my mind from being kind of a street kid in the corporate world to understanding, like, hey, I can start a business about this. And at that time, I didn't really know anything about business. I didn't know anything about manufacturing. So I kind of learned a lot in the last years, but that's how I really started. It was really, hey, I know I can do something better. I can drive better consistency out of products. Let's give this a whirl. And at that time, I was actually getting tired of doing corporate. You know, I had 4 titles at that time. I was working a lot, and I wasn't really satisfied because I knew that I could do better for myself. So I decided to take the leap of faith and really just jump into creating my own business.
Hell yeah, man. That's how it works out for sure. You know, you find that missing pot of the pie and you try to fill it up. You know, I totally get it. Totally get it. You know, that's for at least for my videos too. I saw that too when I was coming up in the firearms world too. I saw this, you know, I went to YouTube to try to find instructions and stuff, and there wasn't really anything to the level, at least my videos, where it's kind of in between very entry level basic plus a little bit of additional information. It was always product reviews, a general kind of concept of what to do, but never really like hands-on as far as like what to do, what to look for to kind of help guide people, right? So beyond the whole drawer for holsters that we all have, we've probably all gone through handgun selection, buying and selling. The AR-15 world, man, the shit tier that's out there sometimes versus the good tier, but you don't know unless you try. It's trial and error, right? So when you and I were talking about this, we basically said, man, we really wish we had videos like that out there to help guide us, or at least if the information was out there for us to find, then that would be great. And that's sort of what I'm doing with my video series. But it's you and I agree, and that's kind of what you're doing too with your side projects beyond LAS, which we'll get to later. But it's giving back to the community, right? Not necessarily just the Asian American community, but the entire American community in general, right? It's just that, exactly. It just so happens that being Asian, that's the first thing that we resonate with. And part of this interview series with other folks in the industry is hopefully your story or somebody else's story will resonate with somebody else that's out there, regardless of whatever situation they're in, who they are, their race, their sex, whatever. So hopefully it inspires other people. And your company is in Arizona now, yeah?
Yeah, so we originally started in Oakland, California, and how I originally started, we started working with Oakland, a couple of gang units within Oakland.
Oh,
we had a couple stuff. We had a bunch of stuff. I was more into, at that time, understanding and learning, developing products from a professional standpoint. I didn't really gravitate towards YouTube to understand products or other people. I went straight to the professionals. And it was weird for me to start working with police, since my whole entire history before that was actually running from police. And once I got to a certain age, my life really calmed down, and really, I saw them as a benefit, how they can really, give me a sense of what I should be looking at, how I should be developing my products. And really, these door kickers, these guys putting their lives on the line every single day is truly inspirational. And that's where I originally wanted to create gear for, is that, hey, you know what, if these badass dudes are willing to put their life on the line, I want to build products for them. I want to make sure that they have what they need to do their job correctly so that they can come home. Granted, the only thing I'm doing really is just making a holster. I want to make sure whatever little contribution I have, I'm doing it so that it benefits them, so that they can do their job correctly and effectively, and not be a hinder and possibly them being injured. And that's one of the things that we really gravitate in the beginning. Now we still gravitate towards that. We don't publicly speak about a lot of the contracts that we do with professionals, but with all of our products, we're very fortunate to have a long list of professionals that all test our gear before we release it. And these are all dudes that have a long, extensive career being a professional. And we really rely on them. And we found that if we can develop products that they would use, they would trust with their own lives, it will resonate to the consumer market, and consumers will slowly pick up on it and understand the benefits of it and really start gravitating to our brand. And it's been a slow process, but I'm pretty happy with our target audience and how educated they are in this industry. You brought it up earlier about a sense of community, and that's really one thing I absolutely love about this industry. Even with other holster makers, a lot of us holster makers, we talk on the back end, we joke around. We are supposed to be competitors and hate each other, but at the end of the day, we're having private conversations trying to help each other's businesses. And that's how I love the community. I love the firearms community, even though there's a lot of negative stereotypes out there. My personal experience has been nothing but, hey, I want to help you. I don't know you, but I want to help you. And really, to me, that's a big thing for me personally, is paying it forward. I'm a big believer in paying it forward, and this community has done nothing but shown me that. So, me paying it forward to other people, and in where we are now, we have a much bigger impact in paying it forward. It's something that means a lot to me. The community is so great that it's hard to really believe what the media is saying for our stereotypes of either a Republican or being pro-gun. It's a hard pill for me to swallow, because, our experiences of other people have been so positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally get that. Totally get that. For our audience, just a little back history. Folks in the professional sectors, there are even us private folks who there's always bureaucracy behind decisions for equipment. So if we're talking that these door kickers, if you will, or these professionals are coming and searching for independent products, especially from a shop that's lesser known, that usually means that the folks are heading there, or at least part of that project, know what they're doing to some degree. Because you and I, Jeff, we talked about this, as well as I've talked to other people in the industry. But some of the stuff that's taught in the quote unquote professional world is pretty antiquated, right? Like when I was going through my government field itself, it's the training that we got was pretty antiquated, and it wasn't until applying my own background and history on firearms and stuff that I started to develop my style of teaching, right? And I'm sure that you've probably seen that the same way too. But granted, you still continue to go to courses right now. I mean, as we all should. And the last course you went to, I think, was Jedi's course, or Jedi's course, right?
So that was Shooter Symposium.
Okay.
Just a shout out to Jedi. That's probably one of the best classes I have ever taken. If you see an opening close to them, snag it, because it will be sold out quick. But one of the last classes I took, it was Brittany Mays, point firearm instructor. She's a female firearm instructor teaching dudes. So that's a big stereotype already in itself. The industry is male oriented, but having a female instructor teach a bunch of dudes, to me, that's changing the industry so largely. I'm a big believer in training and seeking that training. And that's really why we went to a specific level of professionals, because of their training, what they have to do day in and day out. They have a higher level of training, and I guess a higher not really opportunity, but really a higher means to actually draw their weapon.
Right.
So their experience is more, I guess, directed at, hey, I may actually need to use my firearm on the job anytime, any moment. And those were the opinions that we really gravitated to. I really learned a lot, as far as the levels of professionalism and levels of door kickers, levels of police departments and feds and stuff. And really, it's sad, but it's true. All right. A lot of people, or a lot of police officers, don't seek training outside of what they're initially trained on. And it really resonated with me. I went to a firearm class, and the first thing, cool drill, they made us shoot quals. And it was quals with a rifle and quals with a pistol. And as a civilian, as cold, I shot all quals and passed. And that was an eye-opener to me, because I just literally got out of my car, set my gear up, shot a qual, passed. And I was like, that's it? Where's the rest of it? And that was also a scary moment for me too, at the same time, because it was like, hey, these dudes are walking around with firearms, and this is the only training that they have. Now, granted, when you enter a job, you really don't, either whatever industry it is, you don't really seek outside training outside of that unless you're at a certain level. And it's scary when it comes to, these are the people that are going to be responding to you. So it's in a sense that really drove home how important self-reliance is with the firearm, and how important my own personal training is. Granted, I'm not going to be clearing my house if I see someone. I'm going to call the professionals, but I know I'm capable of doing it in a worst case scenario, but I'm not going to put myself in risk like that. I'm just going to call the police and let them deal with it. But really, I try and encourage people who are really rookies or starting out in the law enforcement career, come train with us. Like, hey, if I have to pay for the training for you or provide gear or whatever it is, hey, come out, I'll do it. And the main reason why is because no matter where we live or where we are, we have loved ones, and they may face some kind of danger. And that person who's going to respond to that call for danger, I want them to be equipped. I want them to be ready to go. I want them to be able to handle a situation that is making my loved ones call them. And so I'm a big believer in pay forward in that sense. Whatever I can do to help the community in that, I want to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, man. I totally get that. So I'm in that similar mindset. I'm like, if somebody's kicking in my door, like if I have to respond, then I'll respond. But yeah, you're right. I'm not necessarily going to go seek them short of having other family members, other persons in the house, right? Because that's a different story. But yeah, you're right. So I mean, usually what the recommendation is that you try to keep yourself away from the hazard as much as possible, right? But if push comes to shove, then you got to respond. And to your point, you're absolutely correct that the officers responding is they need to be equipped, either physical equipment or training, in order to be able to handle those situations, so they, as well as the potential victims, get out safely, right? So you're absolutely correct on that. I completely agree with you.
What sucks about it, there's so much politics in equipping officers correctly and budget restraints and all that type of stuff. I get it. I'm a business owner. So that type of stuff is very difficult to see people such as police officers want to put the best foot forward, and then they're restricted by policies or restricted by budgets. It kind of crushes me on that. So I really hope that kind of changes, and the higher powers start to realize, hey, equipping our officers are beneficial to the community. And I really hope that in the future that we kind of kill this anti-police movement and really appreciate what they're sacrificing, man. I don't know any police officer at any level that doesn't live with stress. Every single day, they live with stress and they look stressed out, and it's part of the job, but it's also, I feel bad for them. It's just policies and all that type of stuff shouldn't be in a way of helping people. It's disheartening sometimes, man.
Right. Political bureaucracies, man, for sure. Because sometimes it's out of the agency's control. Usually it's like city council, county council, or county board of directors, or even state, right? As far as where I am, I mean, that. But that translates to civilian worlds also. So we're talking about, unlike these public agencies, which have the bureaucracies preventing them from improving themselves, like on individual skills, we don't. We're civilians. We have a free market. We can do what we want. Yet we still see the civilians coming into this with that I don't necessarily need the best equipment mentality, which is absolute bullshit. Like you and I, like, we are on the same page as this. You should, especially when it's your life or the life of your loved ones or anyone else around you, you should absolutely have the best equipment possible. Budget aside, affordability aside, but the best equipment possible based on your means to handle that encounter. And frankly, you're not going to see me go out there and getting like a shitty pistol, just because it's based on price, because you have to balance out ergonomics, usability, shootability for you, and then go from there, versus just saying, okay, that's the cheapest gun and I'll get that. So, we talked about this, but everyone's going to be different. And it's really important to find the one or two guns or equipment that fits you the best and then go for that, right? It is an investment, and that's just kind of the nature of the firearms world. This is not a cheap thing to get into, but it's your life and the life of your loved ones. I would.
Yeah. When I first started training, there's this guy named Will Chan, and he is a military dude. When I first met him, I was like, damn, that's a total badass dude. And one of the things that he had told me in the beginning was, hey, if you're going to buy cheap gear, know your limitations. All right. Limitations of a gear will dictate what you can do, what you can't do. And if you're going to set yourself within limitations, know that you're limited. And in this type of environment, in a self-defense situation, I don't want to be limited by my gear. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I do experience when people are asking me about first-time buying, becoming a first-time gun owner, what gun should I buy? This XYZ, blah, 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 blah. And really, one of the biggest things for me is, hey, I have a ton of guns because of my holster business. Let's go shoot them. okay, do you feel comfortable with this? You know, my, I guess, analogy towards this is every day we drive a car, but as soon as we jump into another car, it feels completely different. And, you know, we gravitate to certain cars, either visually or how the tech involved or how it handles or whatever it is. And really, each gun is kind of like that in a certain sense that each gun has a different feel. What you use may be what I don't use, and it may not be the same thing as the other person next to us. And really getting out there and trying it is really a big important to find which handgun works for you. And then we'll throw in the principle of stress. Can you use that firearm under a ton of stress? You know, we can stand there and shooting at a sagging target, but as soon as someone, say a loved one, is now in danger, your stress levels are going up, your breathing is going up, everything is now heightened to a certain level. Can you still manipulate and handle that firearm as if you were at a stagnant range? You know, to me, the caliber wars, you know, all that type of stuff doesn't really mean a lot to me, because it comes down to, hey, how good are you under stress? If I start yelling at you while you're shooting a drill and you start fumbling, or I put you on a timer and you start fumbling, you know, maybe your choice of handgun is not correct for you, you know, or you need more training to overcome that type of stuff. You know, the question, you get this, I know you do, you're going to resonate to this. The classic question of going to a gun store and saying, hey, I want to buy my first gun. What do you recommend? And we always hear this stories of, you know, the gun salesman putting a 357 3.5-inch barrel gun into a person who's never shot a gun before. And it's those horror stories that I hate to hear. But I'm a big advocate in trying everything that you can. You know, this leads into the segment we also want to talk about is, you know, just not owning a gun, but also being a responsible gun owner, and understanding what you're comfortable with. All right. If you own a gun, you can be a hobbyist. You can enjoy guns and know that, hey, you know what? I may not be capable of taking a life, and that's okay. That's completely okay. But know that taking a life or being in that type of situation it's much more than just pulling a trigger.
Right.
It's much more than just pointing a person. You know, there's so much others to it, and you really have to come and ask yourself, really come to it and have a come to Jesus moment, if you want to say, hey, do I think I can take a life and live with the repercussions of everything that's going to follow after taking someone's life? I've had friends, you know, when 9/11 happened, I knew I had a lot of friends that immediately joined the military, and after that, their little tours went on, they come back, you can see in their faces, their personalities, the way they carry themselves, the way they interact with people changed them. And it's one of those things that not everyone notices. And, you know, you have to actually really ask yourself, are you prepared to take a life?
Right.
And if you're not, it's okay. Nothing wrong with that. You know, there's nothing that is embarrassing about it. It doesn't demasculate you or any of that type of stuff. It's just know yourself and what you're capable of. But if you're here to be a hobbyist, man, have fun, dude. You know, have fun, enjoy it. You know, you're gonna have a lot more experience than we are having fun with it. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think it's a much bigger topic than just buying a gun and owning it, you know?
No, man, you're absolutely correct, man. You know, you just have to train and prepare yourself mentally as well as physically. But, you know, of course, equipment, right? So it's a practical application of your training. So beyond training, you have to take what you've learned and make it your own so that you're comfortable with it, right? And we talked about this previously also. All right, so we're gonna move towards the next question here. Segueing from your company. So anything, upcoming events, goals, or product lines that you want to talk about for LAS? Because I mean, beyond talking about you and your story and your history to share the world, there's still that company aspect for you, right?
Yeah. So right now we're in a huge growing stage. We're expanding quite dramatically. We have a lot of projects that I'm legally not allowed to talk about,
Sure.
but I can talk about some of the cool projects that we're headed up. Some of these cool projects I'm not legally allowed to talk about. We'll start seeing them in 2022 on a mainstream level. And I'm really excited about the projects. I wish I could tell everyone about it, trust me. But they will stem into new product development. So a lot of products that we've been working on this project will start to come to light in Q3, Q4 of this year. And really, I'm kind of excited about it because it's something, we're concealment based. So having this new product line and really opening our product line is really exciting to me. It's something that I've been really researching as far as understanding what type of benefit or what can I add to what's currently out there. There's so many great companies out there that are creating great products, but I don't want to be known for just creating great products. I wanted to create forward-thinking products. But one of the projects that I'm super excited about right now, we're actually getting into cars, and it's one of these things where it's kind of a give and take, but we're aligning ourselves with really cool Second Amendment companies, and we have this really cool project. Essentially, what we're going to do is we want to build the first Corvette that can be driven under nods. And we want to set a couple world records for the fastest car that can be driven under IR lighting and have some fun. And it's one of these projects that's really is one of those projects that we can really just step away from guns and really focus on, hey, we have a common passion of cars. Let's put all our brains together and create something kind of cool and see where it goes. So it's one of these projects where it's kind of a risk, the amount that we're doing, but I think it's going to be a project that we're going to have a lot of fun with. And then later on this year, we're going to throw our big first ever private event. I talked to you about it. It's one of those things where, we go to a lot of gun events and we have to talk to the public. We have to do, our salesman pitches and stuff like that. But this private event is going to be pretty cool in a sense that a lot of you guys watching are probably already invited, and hopefully we can expand the invitations. But I want to shoot with you. I want to shoot with everyone I met. We share such a great passion and so many, me and you, man, it's just, I feel like sometimes when we talk, it's just, we're on the same page so much, man, but I've never shot with you. I've never, we talk about guns, we talk about theories, we talk about self-defense techniques and all this stuff. And it's just like, well, we still haven't shot with each other. Yeah. So this event is really for us to have fun, for us to actually shoot with the industry people that we meet and become friends with. This is an event to build bonds. This is an event that we can have fun. So I'm pretty excited about that event. I'm pretty excited about the car. We'll showcase the car on, that event and stuff like that. And I'm super excited just to hang out and create better bonds. That's really this year, 2021 for me, is really about networking and solidifying relationships. There's so many people like yourself have done nothing but shown me love. And, I've just been busy. I feel like I haven't done my part to give it back to you guys. So hopefully this event will show you that how much I appreciate guys, how much I appreciate everything you guys done for me and my company. It means a lot. And even though this may be a monetary event, I don't care. I just want to have fun with the great people and the great community that has accepted me. And it's so important to me that I can pass on, another sense of, hey, I can help, or let's have fun together and build a bond. I'm so excited about the event, man.
Well, legit, man. Well, when I show up to that, be prepared to be disappointed in my shooting abilities. I mean, with this whole ammo crisis.
I do not care about your abilities. I don't care. All I want is, hey, you know what? Let's have some fun, man. I'm not, no judgment here, dude, because at the end of the day, I already know people are going to be judging me. So, like, I'm going to be scared. I know that feeling. So, we're not judging anyone for sure. I may convince you to get on to the 2011 game, though. That's something you should be scared about because I have a lot of 2011s and I'm going to force you to shoot every single one of them. So be prepared.
Right on. So your Corvette, it has its own social media channel, not too, right? Or social media or Instagram page, I want to say.
Yeah, listen, the funny thing about this whole car thing is I didn't intentionally do this, but my entire team, from the marketing manager to the project manager that's doing the car to the main influencer, we're all Asian, which is kind of weird to find all these Arizona Asians that now both share a passion for guns and cars. And it's kind of cool. Obviously, my mom's super proud about that for some reason. But it's super cool to actually, inspire other people to, better themselves and be part of this project. It's something that's super cool. So our page is called Filthy Ronin. It's F7 and then the rest is, LTHY Ronin. And Ronin is kind of a big thing for me in my background. Ronin means to me a masterless warrior, someone that holds themselves to a higher principle of morals and ethics, someone who carries themselves higher, not a person who's a dick or any of that, but a person who's willing to maybe sacrifice themselves to better other people, a person who's, willing to open a door up for someone or willing to turn that switch on to help protect other people and display a certain type of personality that will help protect not just his loved ones, but people all around him. And we use the word Ronin a lot. It's a very meaningful word to me. So yeah, Filthy Ronin, we'll be sharing on the LAS Concealment page a lot. We have some pretty cool people that are getting involved and some big influencers. It's going to be a pretty cool project. I'm a little scared, but it's going to be fun.
Hell yeah, man. It'll be worth it. And, we'll go ahead and link the Instagram pages and the social media pages for LAS and Filthy Ronin here as well. We'll put it somewhere through the video. Let's see. The next question we have is, do you have any advice for other people getting started in the firearms world, getting involved in the community, or wanting to start in your specific niche of the firearms market itself or the world?
Yeah. I mean, I think the advice that I have pertains to everyone and anyone, no matter the industry, and really is be willing to be a lifelong student. I don't see myself as knowing everything. I honestly don't even see myself as an expert. I want to be a sponge. I want to learn as much as I can. I want to be open to other people's opinions and take what they say with a grain of salt, but also, hey, you know what? That person is giving that opinion for a reason, and they have developed that mindset somehow. So understanding that you don't know everything, understanding that it's going to be a long road, understanding that, hey, you're going to be a lifelong student, but from that, you're going to see so much personal growth that success will come. And some people try and force it, some people don't. But really, learning, constantly learning, constantly being open to criticism and not being so personal about it is one of the things that I think I want to teach my team and teach anyone that's involved with me or people that are involved with my businesses. I don't know everything, and I never will. And I like to stay in my lane of things I do know and rely on people that I trust to give me the correct information. It's just like firearms training for me. every single instructor has their way of teaching it, whatever basis of their personal experience created that hard set mindset. But it doesn't mean that that's a way to do everything. It doesn't apply to everyone. It's just another tool in your toolbox. So understanding that you can learn things from every single industry and apply it to your business. It doesn't have to be just, hey, that doesn't apply to what I do as far as manufacturing goes, but it could be advice that helps you grow mentally. One of the biggest things of being an entrepreneur is really unlocking levels of your mind so that you can understand much larger concepts. And understand those much larger concepts will allow you to be successful and grow the business much larger. And don't be afraid of a stress. Stress is going to come, and you have to learn to live with it, and you have to learn to get rid of it in a productive way. And those are the biggest things that I see as a contributing factor to my success. I hope that people find themselves, what inspires them to be a successful business owner. But really, lifelong student has helped me a lot. Long-winded way of saying it.
No, exactly, man. So for you folks that are just tuning in to my channel, my videos, they usually talk about take everything, including everything I advise in the videos, with a grain of salt. Find what works for you and make it your own, right? It's that same concept. And new principles applied, like you mentioned, may not necessarily really be specifically applicable to what you're immediately doing, but they can work elsewhere, right? Being able to adapt and overcome, that's a huge motto for really a lot of folks in the world, really. So you have to adapt to survive. And in the business world, I imagine it's no less than that. Yeah, man, right on. That's pretty much all we have for the questions that are generally outlined here. We're just kind of we're going to segue to open discussion now. Do you have any final thoughts or anything else that you want to mention?
So, hey, if you're single and you're male, make sure you have a bottle of Cayman's red wine in your shelves. Friends, family, potential Tinder dates, they will appreciate you. And I know the bottle may seem a little more expensive, but they will appreciate your taste in wine. Even though I don't drink wine, people say I have great taste in wine. So that's a off-topic advice that I give. A little chop up, a little have fun, but yeah,
Right on. Well, thanks, Jeff. It's been a pleasure working with you. I know that you don't like to show your face on camera, and I don't either. And none of my videos have my face except for this series, but you should do more often, man. There's nothing wrong with the advice you're giving or the face. And also, I appreciate the industry mug that you gave. If you guys don't know, this is a personal gift from Jeff. What does that say? So unicorns are real. It's got a unicorn with nods on it, and it's anatomically correct there. So that's perfect, man. I appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you for the opportunity. And for everyone else watching, thanks for tuning in to Bunny Operator. This is Jeff Quan at LAS Concealment. I'm Jesse, and we'll link up everything from there. We'll see you guys next time, and stay tuned for the next guest. Bunny Operator signing out, and Jeff Quan, if you want to say goodbye.
See you guys.